Buka matamu, lihat dirimu, risetkan mindamu, lapangkan dadamu. Kadang hidup ini sukar untuk difahami, tapi yang ku tahu, cintaku hanya untukmu. Mata hati yang membahagiakan, mata nafsu yang mengecewakan. Lihatlah kebesaran Allah, maafkan kesilapan orang. Ingin ku berikan segala yang terbaik dari jiwa yang suci, bahagia membahagiakan. Sayangi semua tanpa ada syarat. Langkahmu di dunia, destinasi di akhirat. Mata hati yang membahagiakan, mata nafsu yang mengecewakan. Lihatlah kebesaran Allah, maafkan kesilapan orang. I am love, I am kind, I am good, I am smart, I am confident and beautiful. You are love, you are kind.
We are so blessed and so fortunate to invite, brother. Let me see. Sorry, I'm Addaem. Sorry. Because the spelling a bit different now. It's Addaem. Yeah, brother Addaem, all the way from Malaysia. He is an Indian Muslim. Previously, his past faith was a Buddhist, and he's also now a very successful business owner and a life coach. So he has a lot of story to tell, and I don't want to share so much. He's the star for tonight. So before we begin, I'll just share with you who are the panelists here on our show. We have on the forefront here is Dr. Taufik. Right, he's a doctor as well, and also a business owner, entrepreneur. So he probably have a lot of entrepreneurial questions to ask. This our brother Addaem. Okay, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Assalamualaikum. Yes. And over here we have, next I will introduce is Brother Iskandar. He has been on all our episodes. Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Brother Iskandar, all the way from Netherlands. He's Sino-Dutch, and he was previously also quite well-versed in Buddhism and Taoism before he came to Islam. And so then he probably can ask a lot of questions on Buddhism to our brother Addaem. And now we have brother Addaem here at the forefront. So if you're wondering, guys, where are the other panelists? They probably are late or they're tired or something. But inshallah, we'll see them. If they are able to come in, we will bring them in. Okay. So without much further ado, let's introduce brother Addaem. Brother Addaem, maybe you'd like to share about yourself a bit, and a bit of your personality or what you like or something, and then share with us how you came to Islam from Buddhism.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum to everyone who's listening here and also who's listening live, right? I'm from Malaysia, specifically from Kuala Lumpur. I became Muslim about 12 years ago, specifically in 2009. I remember it was just passing the Ramadan period. Originally, I am a Buddhist practicing Buddhism. My mom is Chinese Malaysians, and my father is an Indian. So obviously, I had a lot of influences on Buddhism from my mom. Specifically, I think a lot more from my friends back in high school. So it has been wonderful 12 years being a Muslim. I think about 8 years ago, my first daughter is going to be eight. So yeah, so it's 8 years ago in 2013. I had a calling to get married, and Alhamdulillah, I have 4 children right now. First three girls, and the last one boy. He's 4 months old, and so I've been out from corporate world about 10 years, about 9 years ago. Just I think a year after being a Muslim, and I have been starting my own business. And today I own two business. One is the health business, and the other one is coaching business. So I'm just grateful to be here today. So that is my brief background about myself. The rest I leave it to you guys to ask me any questions.
Mashallah. Wow, you're also into health business. So, okay, before we go into business, right? I mean, like, this is also our business now tonight. So, I just curious, like, what is Buddhism roughly about? Like, you studied about Buddhism, or was it like inherited from your parents that they taught Buddhism or something? Yeah.
Good question indeed. So let me just give you a bit of background about how So basically, growing up, I actually grew up in estates, right? So it's actually a very small, like a very small environment where we have, I think, less than 50 people. So most of them are rubber tapers. So my mom is rubber tap, and then both of my parents are uneducated. So typically, you sort of like just follow whatever people do. My father, I cannot recall whether he's practicing Hinduism. So growing up, I was basically practicing whatever that people around me practice. So it started off being a Hindu. Well, I go to temple, I do whatever people do. And then I remember when I moved to KL about 13 years old, then I started to mix with more Chinese. And I remember specifically when I was in Form 6, I met this friend of mine. I believe he's a very staunch Buddhist, so I learned a lot of philosophy about Buddhism, being vegetarian. So I like the whole idea of being detached from the world, finding peace. So I kind of pursued that for a while. And when I was in university, I remember I was like being a vegetarian for almost a year. So I guess the journey was about finding peace, coming from an environment that it was quite chaotic. And I think eventually, once I started to work, I still practice as a Buddhist. I mean, I do things like what normally Buddhists do, go to the temple, but I couldn't differentiate between Taoism or Buddhism. But eventually, I learned to understand that I'm just fascinated with the idea of the philosophy, but not so much of the worshipping of the whatever statues that you find in the temples, right? And I think it has been going on, and I had quite a good, I would say, I would good life lah, a good life overall when I was being a Buddhist. Life was just okay. And I was pursuing my career very, very, very hard. I was very busy, and I was traveling all around the world. And at one point, I think I had a lot of calling to understand the meaning of life. And I think it started off in 2008 and 2009, where the funny thing is that I'm being in a Muslim country, but I never really got to know what what Islam is all about. And the other ironic thing is that I think back in Form 6, I took history, and one of the subject is Islamic civilization. And I have to really strive to get A to go into universities, but I have no clue what Islam is all about in real essence, because it's just theory. It stays on as theory. And so life was good. I'm continuing with my life as Buddhist, and I think 2008, 2009, I had a colleague, and I also remember Brother Firdaus. That was the time that we had some sort of like an issue with tsunami and things like that. And this particular moment, I was at the corner of my office, and I left my phone just like that, and suddenly I think it's moving.
Oh.
So I guess it was an effect from the earthquake that we had in Aceh or something like that. I cannot recall the specifics. Um, so what happened on that specific day, going back from office to home, I like to normally play around the radios, and I think maybe Brother Taufik knows this. It's actually a song about taubat, repentance. So I kind of like get hooked with the song, and it was very emotional. It hits me very deeply, because it was very emotional. It's about, I do not deserve heaven, and um, I do not, I'm not, I do not deserve heaven. At the same time, I'm afraid of going to hell, something like that. um but it just stayed as a song, so it was just an emotional journey which I couldn't understand at all. So once one thing one event take one event after another event take place, and I remember there's another situation where every year I normally buy books for my nieces as part of tax exemptions, and I pass by this corner of books, Islamic section, I think. And I remember it was a prophet in Islam. I was just reading through, and I came across story about Adam, about Jesus, about Mother Mary or Maryam. So I was like, wow, I was like, I have no clue that Jesus is part of Islam, right? So there's a lot of curiosity at that point, and I started to discuss things like this with friends, and most of the time I do not get the answer that I wanted, so I just leave it as it is. And I think, strange enough, things started to fall on place as well. Like, for example, I would have access to online readings about Islam, and the more I felt I wanted to learn more. So I was very curious to understand more, and I got hooked with hadith as well. I remember every night before I sleep, I will start read the story of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and I just became very fascinated with hadith, and every day before sleep I would just read. And at one point it sort of like really has strengthened my belief that this is the right path, and this is something that I believe it is truthful enough compared to many things that I have understand or studied before, whether formally or informally. But whatever it is, I think it, as a person who has been educated, I guess it just stays as logical informations, but it doesn't go beyond there. So I just leave it as it is. I just leave it as it is, and I just felt that that's it, because coming from an Indian Chinese background, it is quite a taboo moving into this kind of culture in Malaysia, and so I just felt that I shouldn't offend anyone, specifically my mom, because she stayed with me. I mean, I've been taking care of her since I started to work. So that's it. So I leave it as it is, and life is good, So I carry on with my work. I've been extremely busy, so that has always been part of my focus and priority in life. So spiritually, yes, being a Buddhist, well, I sort of like just understand the fact that you have to be kind. I can be vegetarian once in a while, but everything revolved around dunya. It wasn't something that serious enough for you to think about the afterlife, right? Until one point, I think, as I said earlier, in 2009, I remember it was specifically after Ramadan, where I had some sort of a very surreal dream where I was prostrating in white, which I have no clue what I was doing. I basically was prostrating, and I felt very emotional at that point in time. Well, at that time, I also remember when I woke up, I had tears on my face, and it was something that I never felt before, and it made me very emotional. Until that point, it made me feel that I should do more. Well, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I've already understand that logically this religion makes sense, but I had fear as well. Fear knowing that if I walk into this thing, it is going to be serious, man. It's not like you can just do it, and I'm not a person who do things halfway. If I do something, I do it really well. So I decided to leave it as it is up until when I got the dream. It was very emotional. At the same time, I felt so peaceful, which I never had before in my life, you know. Coming from a background like where coming from a background where my father and my mom, they came from a very difficult background. So life wasn't easy growing up in Malaysia, specifically when you have a parents who are illiterate, you know, they are not educated. And I have six siblings. I'm the youngest. I have three first elder sisters, follow my brothers. So none of them finished school. So I'm the only lucky one who actually managed to go into university. So there's a lot of hope in me being the so-called educated one. And it is kind of like, if you do something like this, you're betraying your entire family, you know.
Mhm.
So recognizing that it's going to be havoc, but I guess truly, I think what made the entire journey beautiful was that the dream that I had, it has given me a lot of convictions that this is it. Nothing can pull me away from this path, you know. And guess what? I just went on to call a Singaporean friend of mine, because as I mentioned earlier, I couldn't speak this to any locals, or I couldn't speak to anyone, because it was not something that I do, you know. And then when I spoke to this friend of mine, he just said, are you ready to say Shahada? I have no clue what Shahada was, you know. And all I knew that I believe that this is the path that I want to walk on. So I have understand about Islam, but I have not really understand the pillars of Islam. Like, you have five pillars. The first one, obviously, you have to say Shahada, right?
Yeah.
So, and it has to be in Arabic. um I have never recite anything in Arabic before. So when he asked me to recite, so I was like, do I have to really say this? I just knew that I believe there's a God, Allah. And so when he said that, no, this is rukun, or this is the pillars. So he said, you have to say it. And he was quite firm about it. And I don't like people to be firm with me, because, you know, at that time I was quite strong-minded, thinking that this is what I want, but I do not want people to dictate what I should do or what I shouldn't do, you know. Because growing up, I have always been quite a stubborn person, or maybe you would say that quite a strong-minded person when it comes to making choices in life or doing what is right for me, you know. So on at that moment, I just have to believe that he's doing the right thing, you know. So I just carried on, and then literally after that, I just have to rely on Mr. Google, you know. Mr. Google has given me a lot of knowledge about how to perform prayers, how to do wudu, you know, how to even recite, Al-Fatiha properly. Obviously, that is how much I could do at that point in time, and having a very busy life in a career. I was actually attached to one of the big multinational, consumer good multinationals. So, and guess what? When I decided to go on to the path, I actually literally told my boss that I'm going to change my name, because, because I wanted to make a pilgrimage, because I remember the dream. It was so surreal that I was wearing white, which I never worn white the whole, from from my head to toe, I never did. So I felt that this could be something to do with Makkah, and then and the beautiful part at that time was, I remember in Malaysia there's this Astro, is a satellite channel, and then they have two channels specific to to Islamic channels, right? Which I remember was, one of it was Oasis, and the other one is Al Hijrah. So I got hooked to these two channels because it gave me a lot of learning theories, and I always felt connected with these channels. And I remember specifically, and okay, so obviously after all this period has over, I became a Muslim. So I saw this program about Hajj. I think people are making pilgrimage to perform Hajj, right? And it was one of the local songs, one of the singer in Malaysia, which I like, which I have no clue why this song is related to Islam, because all this while it happens to be a song about love. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. And when I was watching the journey of all this Hajj, making the program, it just got so emotional. And that's it. So I said, you know what, I'm just gonna make my trip to Umrah, my first Umrah. And I did it like after 5 or 6 months being a Muslim. And so I made my first Umrah. I have no clue what's going to happen. And I remember 2 days before that, I was in Surabaya, Indonesia. being doing a business trip. So I basically came back to Malaysia, staying the whole night in office, cleaning up my work before I make the trip. And when I went there, it was so I mean, I was so clueless. I do not know the way to do this, So, but once I did it, I felt that that's one of the most beautiful things I've done. And so since then, I've been making trip every year to Umrah, like since 2009. So 2010 was my first one. Subsequently, I've been doing once a year, and then except for the last 2 years because of COVID. So this Umrah trip has been so special for me because it always strengthened my iman, coming from a very challenging environment in Malaysia, and I felt that I should go there every year just to sort of like, strengthen what I believe in, continue to be better in whatever I do. And of course, one of the things that I wanted to do is also because I wanted to really change my family life, coming from a very difficult background. Culturally, they are very strong. I mean, my mom is Chinese. She's very culturally strong, she's a typical Hokkien who are very staunch about what she believes in. So I remember when I told her about my decision of being a Muslim, it was not easily being accepted at the time. Uh, Specifically for her, she was in silent. She was in silent with me for almost 2 weeks. I think that was one of the most difficult things that I have to go through being a Muslim. At the beginning, specifically with my mom, because I have been always with her, and she has been she has been the source of my strength. She has been my role model. She's a hard worker. She's a very strong lady. So when she wasn't really accepting about my decision, and that has obviously gave me some I would say some sort of like how do I say setback about going on with this. But I really believe that this is the right thing to do, so I carry on. I continue da'wah with her. So every year when I go to Umrah, it's all about making dua for her as well.
Wow.
So it wasn't easy. If it has been going on for almost 10 years. Alhamdulillah, after such a long journey, finally she has accepted and embraced Islam just last year.
Wow.
Um,
Mashallah.
yeah, so long journey, for 10 years after. Yeah, and I think the whole journey became sweeter after she became Muslim, and now at this last stage of her life, as I mentioned earlier, she has been affected with COVID, and before that, she has some comorbid like with stroke. So for me, to sum up my story, I think this has, despite whatever challenges I've gone through in my life, I would say for the last 12 years, being a Muslim is one of the best things that ever happened to me personally, and I will never trade this with anything else. So what I do today, it is about doing what is right in according to my deen, and also I believe my career, my journey in my profession is also part of getting Allah's redha. Um, so whatever I do is in alignment with what I believe in this faith. So that is why I say that this is one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Mashallah, thank you for such a moving and touching and inspirational story. Especially, the highlight also is about your mom embracing Islam, which I felt was super, super amazing. Yeah. But before we carry on, I'd just like to, introduce two of our panelists who just came. Basically, Elena, she's also called Zafira, and she's also a revert from Singapore. She's now Muslim, and she's also a Chinese Muslim. I think her parents are Buddhist also, right? Yeah, that's, you're not wrong. So
They're
she.
Christians now.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
My bad. Okay, Christians. Okay, and we also have a sister Joanne, and Joanne is from Malaysia as well. She's also a revert. So Alhamdulillah, she's here to join us for tonight. So just want to help the audience, for those who came in maybe in the later part of the stream, they may not get the full picture of who Brother Addaem is. Brother Addaem is firstly a business owner, also a life coach, and the previous faith was Buddhist. But I think maybe you can correct me, Brother Addaem, if I don't get this right. But in Southeast Asia, like Singapore and Malaysia, right, most of Buddhists, right, they are also a mix of Taoist practices, right? They
Yeah.
have like a hybrid of both, lah. Not really pure Buddhism, but because pure Buddhism would mean that they don't have other gods, statues and stuff, right? It's just like a way of life, and how they are kind to the world, and to that they improve their inner self and everything. Yeah. So brother Adam is also a Chinese, has a Chinese mother and an Indian father. So in our terms, I think we call it a Chindian. Is that correct in
That's
Malaysia?
right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because my wife was also Chindian, so
Oh,
that's how
wow.
I know.
Okay.
And and he used to work in a corporate company. It's a multinational company. It's Fortune 500. So, brother Adam, maybe you can share us a bit, like, what. Okay, maybe more on the religious side first. What made you you came to study about Islam is because of your work, or is it because of you just wanted to find out about Islam? Just
Nothing,
yeah.
nothing to do with work at all.
Okay.
It is
Okay.
completely detached from work. It was completely isolated. I think never in my 10 years of my career we actually sit down with any colleague or talk about religion. So I guess it was completely detached. And I think one of the reasons why I really appreciate Islam is that because whatever I do, it is not isolated to dunya alone. And I think that was the place I was in with my career. Like for example, when I was excelling in whatever I do, it was very short-term focused, and I believe that I did that primarily because I want to give a good life to my mom, and of course to my immediate family at large. But then again, the true meaning of life itself is after dunya. So that is one thing that I don't think people generally understand that. And that is what I preach heavily to my staff, or even to my children, even though they are like eight years and below. But I think it's very important for us to always talk about whatever we do is to get Allah's mercies and His pleasing, right?
Mhm.
So I came to Islam. It is due to situational, like for example, the story that I shared with you earlier. It wasn't something that I was pursuing hard. I just felt that at that moment of my life, I felt a bit empty, despite having a lot of achievement at work, or whatever that comes along with that. Financially, I was quite independent as well. So it was not like I was looking for something about dunya, but I just felt that it was some I felt missing, something. I just cannot articulate what it was. I couldn't articulate at all. And I said the turnaround of event came across the book of Prophet, and it's sort of like motivated me to look for more understanding about Islam itself. And even though I have gotten most of the knowledge through my readings through the hadiths, I just couldn't go into Islam because of whatever the stigma around the religion itself. And as I mentioned earlier, culturally, people do not. Okay, so we have to separate culture and religion, right? People have a lot of misconception about Islam. I don't think it's because of the religion itself. It's because culturally we believe to be that whatever we are doing is right. So if you're Chinese, whatever you do is right. If you're Indian, whatever you do is right. So, but I think that purely coming from a strong cultural background, not necessarily do you understand what religion is all about, right?
Mm.
So, having said that, as I mentioned earlier, once I had that dream, it has given me the conviction for me to pursue in doing what I believe is the right thing for myself, not
Mhm.
necessarily for my family, but for myself. And I believe at the end of the day, if I want to make other people happy, it
Mhm.
has to start with yourself first.
Mhm.
And I do not have to prove anything to anyone. I had a lot of objection from my siblings, being the youngest. I mean, they are much older than I am. I'm the youngest, so the one before me is about 9 years. So among them, they are about 1 or 2 years apart.
Mhm.
So there are five of them. So you can just imagine I'm the isolated one. So when I had this calling, and when I move on with this, I remember it was quite a dramatic moment in my family, where I remember one of my sisters said, "Oh, I don't want to talk to him again. I'm going to cut him off my family," that sort of stuff. Okay, go ahead. Whatever you want to do, you go ahead. I just believe if I continue to do what I do, and I continue to practice the deen accordingly, being kind to others, inshallah, Allah will always be with us. And true enough, we are very close as a family today. Like all
Mhm.
of us, I'm talking about even my siblings. They're very close to me and very close to my children. And I mean, Allah is great. Like as I mentioned earlier, when my mom embraced it, no one had like a huge objection or any sort of like that. I know they have some sort of concern, but in a recent time, I posted my mom wearing hijab and everything. Everybody accepted positively because I believe that their heart, it is not to do with, is got nothing to do with what I say. It's truly from Allah itself. So I just have to believe. So I guess for every person who going through this thing, you just have to believe that you'll be fine at the end of the day. And I'm saying with a full conviction that you, inshallah, be fine because ultimately everything happened with His will.
Mhm.
We as a human being, we may say A, but if you decided that your path is going to be B, that is
Mhm.
how it's going to be end. So you just have to believe that. So that's how I, at that point, that's how I believe it. And I think partly because I'm very lucky because Firdaus, being part of a strong multinational, I always tend to have a strong mind in whatever I do. Like for example, like what I mentioned earlier, if I decided that this is the right thing, then you just have to pursue it very hard. And what happened to me what happened to me after being Muslim, I felt a transformation with me emotionally. I felt that I could start forgive things that has happened in the past. Like I had a lot of issue with some of my background in the past, specifically with some family members, because as I said, life was very difficult. I mean, not just that it was financially difficult,
Mhm.
it was emotionally brutal as well. We went through quite a bit of challenging. Like my mom, she's even though with my dad around at that time, she was almost like a single mom.
Mhm.
And it wasn't a pleasant journey growing up. So you tend to have a lot of emotional baggages.
Mhm.
And I believe vividly on my second Umrah or so, I was just weeping, weeping and weeping, doing the tawaf and all. Thinking about it, I can even feel emotional at the moment. I literally feel like I've forgiven my father for whatever that he has done. So I would not be able to even have that particular moment of joy or peaceful if I didn't become a Muslim, you
Hmm.
know. And that is how
Hmm.
powerful when you believe in Allah's plan, and that is how powerful this religion is. Which I mean, I've been Buddhist for I don't know how many years. Being a vegetarian, I never felt that way.
Hmm.
I because for me, I mean, not to offend anybody here, but I guess for me, at least being a Buddhist at that time, it was very superficial with what I was practicing in dunya, but there's no connection with the creator.
Hmm. So for those who are not Muslims here, maybe we can give you an example of what dunya is. Dunya, because this is an Arabic word. Basically, it's it's uh it means worldly affairs, like worldly life, things that we do in this world. And in Islam, we also believe that what we do in this world will also affect what will happen in the hereafter. So we have the two places that we need to balance very well. And one thing I'll ask you about, brother, is so you logically understood Islam, and along the way you had a dream which cemented your faith. Like sort of like you pursue for Islam all the way. Is that correct? These are the
That's,
two reasons that brought you to Islam.
that's it.
And what were um okay, what were your misconceptions about Islam before? Like, you probably had some when you were a Buddhist, or even as a free thinker maybe.
Yeah. So okay. So two things. Yeah. So I guess being part of this Malaysian community, I had one prejudice, and of course, oh, I mean, you had continued to read all this global fears about terrorism and all. So that is quite global, right? So specifically in Malaysia, as I mentioned earlier, if you are, in a culture like Chinese or Indian, there's a taboo of,
Mm,
if you're moving on to be a Muslim, it's like, oh, you became a Malay. You know what I mean? So
mm,
that is not a joke, because it can it can cause a lot of fear for people who wants to be a Muslim, because there's no way you can cut off your family ties just because you became a Muslim. So that was one of the major fear in Malaysia, and that is not that is just a that is just taboo in Malaysia, specific to Malaysia. So I can't say that to other country because I do not know how things are in other countries, right? But that is what's going on here. So I guess it is important for you to speak to the right person, understand the deen to the core, to really understand what Islam means. Islam itself it means peace, right? There's no way peace means you're going to cut off your ties from family. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the things that I really fascinated with Islam was the hadith that I was reading constantly. Mashallah, it has given me so much conviction and confidence that this is the right religion, because I remember one specific hadith spoke about how important your mother is. The first one, the second one, the third one. I think somebody came to Rasulullah and asked his opinion, who should be prioritized in my family? And he replied, the first is your mom, first is your mom, second your mom, third is your mom, and the fourth is your father. And that itself has given me a lot of confidence, recognizing that I was very close to my mom. And that is only one side of Islam, right? And if you look at every facet of Islam, mashallah, it has a beautiful narrations on stories that you can relate to, that can give you some sort of like understanding on what is the right thing to do. Like even for example, I mean, like if you're talking about, say for example, marriage, right? As a slave of Allah, you will always believe number one is, I mean, for men, number one is Allah, second is Rasul, third is your mother, and then the rest follows. And for the lady, Allah, Rasul, and your husband. And it is so beautifully carved, because in the future, as a mom, your son will take care of you. You know what I mean? So, I mean, this is something that I don't see it. And that is why there's a lot of commotion, there's a lot of feud with family ties, which I don't see that in Islam. And the other things that I was so impressed is when I was doing my Umrah, for the first Umrah, for the first time, I was like, I cannot be that ignorant, am I? But like on that particular moment, I feel like, wow, I could literally see the entire nations is there. Like I could see Chinese from like mainland, the typical Indian from India. And then you have this Mat Saleh or the Amor from the US or whatever. So I was like blown away by that experience itself. So I mean, how diverse Islam can be, and that is not the perception that you see when you are wherever you are. So I decided to take that as a way to da'wah to my family members as well. Like for example, when I had my first daughter, I named her Yasmin, Nur Yasmin Chandran, Nur, because my wife has Nur in her name, and Nur is actually one of Allah's name as well. Nur means light, right? And then Yasmin, and then Chandran is my surname. And then I literally told my siblings that I am still going to be a hardcore Indian. I'm just gonna love I'm just gonna love chapati, whatever it is. I'm just gonna. But it takes so many years of explanation, and still they will not understand, because I think hidayah is purely from Allah. What we can do as a Muslim is continue to portray a good akhlaq or behaviors, and stay true to the deen and do kind. And that is what I'm focusing on today, Firdaus, because we can't change people. And if I remember somebody come to me and speak about Islam, I would say no. That is quite clear at that point in time. So and I'm saying this very sincerely. What we can do as a Muslim is always being kind, do the right thing, respect each other. Whether the person become Muslim or not is not our calling. Like what happened to my mom, I can only dua to her. I've been speaking for almost 10 years. It is a painful journey, guys. I mean, seriously, every time I go to Umrah, I remember I will specifically go to the Multazam or the door of Kaaba, and I will pray there, and I will weep non-stop. Nothing has changed for 10 years. And the moment I let go, like when I truly let go, you know what? I have done what I can. I will continue to do out for her, but whatever it is your calling, whether she became one or not. And so I just believe I guess it's going back to what we understand of circle of influence and circle of concern. We cannot be concerned of what people do. We can only influence ourselves to be better every single day, whether it's yourself and Allah, whether it's yourself and your wife, your children, or your staff. And for me, that is what I'm focusing on at the moment, being a Muslim and being kind to others. Inshallah.
MashaAllah. So, okay, just for some of our audience who might not know what is hadith, hadith is basically the teachings and the ways of the Prophet, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Yeah, I think Brother Iskandar has a question here, so I'll put him up. Brother Iskandar?
Yeah. So Yeah, I forgot the question, but yeah, let me rephrase it. So, so you found Islam through these ideas that you found inside Islam, but they are, for example, being kind to your mother, or it's not unique to Islam. I think most major world religions have this. So, was there anything, specific that made you be like, this makes more sense than the other religions, or um, yeah.
This is a very good question, actually. Okay, so let me talk about that through the journey that I had. So first, as I mentioned, the emotion part is ultimately the one that decided my action plan, whether I'm going to be a Muslim or not. Logically, it make all sense. When you study the Quran, when you talk about the rights of women in Surah An-Nisa, or you talk about the Tawheed of Allah in Surah Al-Ikhlas, everything makes sense. But ultimately, as a human being, I mean, I am speaking from my experience. I think we are emotional being, and our emotion plays a big role in how we make our actions plans. And at that moment, I remember specifically the dream that I had. It has given me so much peace, and I think that is a very strong emotions, has given me a lot of confidence to pursue. Number one. Number two, upon continuing my journey in Islam, obviously I started to educate myself more about understanding Islam. So I think it's crucial for us to understand the pillars of Iman, the unseen, and that itself is something that is so powerful, because obviously this is something that I have also became fall in love with, the presence of angel, the presence of God, the Quran, and the signs of Judgment Day. And the one that really has made a lot of impact to me is the qada and qadar, because as I mentioned earlier, growing up, I always have this anger towards people, or I have certain issues, and no matter how you want to be kind or you want to be better, you always have that moment of frustration that come from your past. For me to let go, it is important for me to understand the qada and qadar, which means everything happened for a reasons. Our role is to be able to understand those moments as a facts, and we learn from it, and become better. And that is where I really believe it, and that is where I think it has its unique positioning, for me as a Muslim. And because I mean, coming from where I come from, everything's supposed to be witnessed, it's supposed to be in front of you, but there's a lot of things in life that cannot be seen, right? And that itself, it's something that you go by faith. For me, that is something that is very significantly has also helped me to be better, and accept the past, because the past is a powerful thing that can happen to anyone, and it can be a baggage for you to move forward in life as well. So, and religion, it is meant for you to be better. And for me, I see it that this is the part that I think it is completely unique, and I just cherish every single bit of it.
MashaAllah. I think Joanne
Mashallah.
wanted to ask you about your non-Muslim friends and religion.
Yeah,
Yep.
like how did you react? Like for me, because now I'm studying hijab, so like when I met up with my colleagues, like Chinese one, I will feel like afraid how they do think me, like how they will react on like when I on hijab.
Yeah, I totally can understand what you're going through. I guess my journey somehow has prepared me to face all these stereotypes, right? So let me give you a bit of background. Being a Chinese Indian, you definitely go through all these biases, growing up. Whether it's from the Chinese community, or from the Indian community, or even from the Malay community, I always being misunderstood as a Malay in Malaysia, especially in Ramadan, is very tough for me. So that's number one. But among the community of Chinese or Indian, there's always a bias. So I think growing up, it has somehow thickened my face. I don't know whether it makes sense to you. So going back to your questions, when I was announcing it to I guess to my colleague first, because I am highly I spend most of my time at my work, right? So that is where you have your social circles, right? And I literally believe there's one episode I was in a lift. This person, a senior of mine, she's a Chinese. She literally said to me, "Oh, I cannot believe that you became this." I was just looking at her puzzle, but well, that is my decision. It's nothing to do with you, you know. So what I'm trying to say is everyone can say whatever they want, but you should not get that affect you. And that is what I did, you know. And I remember this specific incidents, like I mentioned earlier. I told my immediate manager, he was an expatriate, that I want to change my name and I'm going to go to Umrah. I will not be contacted, you know. So I made that alignment very clear. And I remember specifically during Ramadan, I will send out email to the entire country. You know, the emails, right? The one that the specific email address that goes to everyone. Like I will go to the company very early in the morning. I will leave I will say, for example, I clock in at 7 a.m. I will leave by say 5:30 p.m. It's just to educate people that I'm going through a phase that it is part of my faith, you know. So and I'm doing that with a full conviction I'm doing what is right for me without breaking the responsibility. And I think that is something that I wanted to share to anyone. If you do something out of your love to Allah, you just have to believe no one can harm you. And that is what I strongly believe. And that but I guess the most the impact that you're going to get from this is the people closest to you who are your family members, and you need to mentally prepare that these are the people that can hurt you more as well. If they don't understand your journey, they can, you know, they can hurt you more. So you have to prepare for it, and recognizing that, you know, there's a bigger force out there that will guide you and protect you, you know. And that is what exactly I did. So I will not lie, there have been some up and down at the beginning, but I just went on with the faith that, you know, I will be fine. And as I mentioned at the beginning, the last 12 years has been the most beautiful journey I had, and nothing that I will trade seriously. Nothing. Alhamdulillah.
Okay, well, we are going to the business question because
Sure.
you're a business owner yourself. But before we go there, there's two questions here that are more religious related one. One is a question from the audience who said, in Buddhism, you also learn about peace, about calm, about being good and everything. So, what was significant in Islam that is different compared to that? Basically, this was the question by Brother Sharani Kamis. You also do meditation as a Buddhist, right? What's the biggest difference, in Islam? And another question is from also from Joanne. Joanne, who wants to, our dear Joanne also wants to know, how do you answer, to your non-Muslim friends and, about Islam? How do you talk about Islam to them? Yeah.
Okay. I guess the easiest question with Joanne's question first.
Okay.
Honestly, I do not do any explanations because I just continue with my life, and I don't see a reason why should I explain to others, because it's my choice of life, right? But of course, to the closest one, when they question me in a way that they wanted to have a discussion with me, what I do, I normally share my journey, like what I have been sharing with you guys. So I have been telling them like what happened from the day one until the end, and most often not, they were just like wow, and they were very supportive, you know. So for those people that just ask me randomly, I depends on whether I want to say or I want to share, because they depend on the context of the questions. If the question is primarily to sort of like being judgmental, then you need to decide whether that's the right moment for you to share or not. That is entirely up to you. Going back to a friend that asked about Buddhism, right?
Yeah.
Personally, when I became at that moment when I was a Buddhist, life was good, as I mentioned earlier, right? Everything was peaceful. It is a good philosophy about detach from the worldly matters. You know, you do kind. You know, you have this eight wheel of life or something like that, where you continue to do good. And I continue to say at this moment, it is one of the teaching that is very, very helpful for humankind. Okay. The only difference that I see with myself and Islam and Buddhism is that I have the direct connection with my creator, which I mentioned through my dream, that no one can give me that. And that itself is a very strong emotion that has allowed me to be where I am today, you know. And for me, that is the clear differentiation.
MashaAllah, very well said. I think, it's the connection we have with the Creator, and you know that the Creator is there to take care of you, look out for you, and love you, and to grant you mercy and anything that you want. The connection with that, beautifully said. Okay, so now to the business question because I'm also very curious. You previously was working in a corporate company, I believe. So, what made you want to be a business owner and an entrepreneur? And maybe to what extent has this reached in Islam also? An Islamic view of this part. Does it
Okay.
complement it, or yeah? And afterwards, I think Dr. Taufik also have these questions for you. Yeah.
Okay. So when I was in this multinational, I'm already part of a business group. I mean, business functions, right? I involved in sales and marketing, and also eventually I got into a general management where I look after profit and loss. So long story cut short, brother Taufik, it happened because there's a change in family where I decided to stay put in Malaysia instead of moving on to Singapore as part of my next role. And at that time, my dear wife, she's already as part of residential program to be an eye specialist, and I see a reason for me to set up one. So I started off with my mother-in-law first, an eye specialist center at that time with only one shop lot. Today we are at 3-floor building in one of the prime area in KL. So business is something that it is like a no-brainer for me. It has always been something that I wanted to do, and the time was just right. To your questions, yeah. So everything we do is revolving around being a good Muslim. Like whenever we set up this eye clinic as well, we wanted to serve the ummah. We want to give the best service. We want to raise the best staff as well. So there's a lot of hard work that I normally do not put into my corporate life. I didn't put in when I was in corporate, man. So I felt that the challenge is even more now because there's more work, because everything we do with one goal in mind, to please Allah only. And along the way, managing people, it has been quite challenging, especially when you are small medium enterprise. The kind of talents that you get, it is not as probably like when you are in a multinational. So with that, you must have a bigger cause or bigger strength to carry on. So that was when I decided to be to be a trainer, because I believe training people cannot be just on logical mind. It has also from the deepest part of your emotion as well. So I wanted to be a trainer as part of my way to give back to the society and also help people to be better. And when they become better, they become happier, and when they become happier, they do more and they can become their true self. So that is what I've been doing for the past, I would say, 15 months to 18 months. Especially during this pandemic, I have started a new company that is focusing on providing training, NLP trainings. And recently, I have also gone beyond NLP training and started to work with corporate to provide corporate training as well.
Okay, mashallah. Thank you. I think Brother Taufik is gonna ask you more questions. Yeah, I think I have some more.
Thank you so much, Brother Adam, for sharing. It's just so heartwarming and touching to hear your journey. And as a born Muslim, I cannot relate, but then it's just very, very touching, the things that you share. However, being a born Muslim, you also have different challenges. For me, I grew up working hard to do well in school, and I'm surrounded by mostly Chinese. So I was taught to work hard, work hard and get a very good job, or even in business, also surrounded by a lot of Chinese concepts of working hard. But when I was growing in business and in career, there seemed to be like a split or a separate between career and Islam. So my career or my business was like, okay, earn money, do well. Okay, that's my career and business. Islam is salat, do the 5 pillars, and I spent quite a lot of time to figure out how to put them together. Like you said, everything seemed to align. When you align your life with Islam, everything seemed to be better, right? So I want to ask your experience and also your thoughts, as a trainer, as a business owner. How did you align Islam with your career, your business, and how has it changed or improved your career and your business?
Wow.
Mashallah. Good question.
That's a very meaningful question. Wow. Very good. Thank you for the question, Dr. Taufik. Well, it started of, like I said, in my previous company, I remember we were about to move to a new locations, and we are to also contribute in our ideas. And I think I specifically also spoke about having surau in the office itself, because it's like a building where it's like a many floors. Typically people go down to ground floor, whatever. And because our job is highly intense, and sometimes you're catching up for solat time and things like that. So I think for me, this is also speaking from going through for the past 12 years, right? Which means sometimes their iman is up and down, right? So I must say at the beginning, I really pay attention to my solat, really, because for me, the solat has really strengthened my belief. Because sometimes going through business challenges, there are times that, you know, you have palpitations. Wow, how do you face this human being, or how you do go through these situations? It is just daunting, especially in multinational, where you have so much of responsibility, and you're talking about $1 billion ringgit. So that you cannot avoid, as a human being, you tend to have fears and things like that. And for me, the solat has really strengthened me, and I always align with my superiors that for my solat I will not compromise. And as a matter of fact, I remember there's one incident. I spoke to my because normally they tend to have a lot of teleconference during the Zoho time. And for me, on Friday, I cannot miss my Friday prayers. I am that, and as I said, that was at the beginning, right? Because the beginning, as a new Muslim, you tend to want to do things right. And especially, I remember this one day, brother Firdaus. This is a real story, yeah, because I was so naive about traveling, and I don't understand Islam to how I understand today. Like, for example, I remember this one day I was traveling to Singapore, and I think I reached the place at, I don't know, maybe around 12 o'clock. I was literally catching up taxi, go to the mosque, and I was running to catch up for the Friday prayers. And I didn't understand the fact that when you are musafir, you can actually do the combination prayers, right? So what I'm trying to say is that and that was how I used to be at the beginning, because I literally do by the dots. And it has given me so much of strength, and believe that you can do whatever you want in dunya as long as you have Allah in your heart, you know. And if I may share a bit of personal story in a recent time that just happened, as I mentioned to brother Firdaus during the offline sessions, the entire family was affected with COVID. It was very emotional. It was highly emotional, because I have an elderly mother who is 81 years old. My youngest son, a boy, he's only 3 months old at that time. And my wife, she had COVID. My 3 girls had COVID. So, and at one night, I have to be transferred to hospital because I started to have breathing problem, and my oxygen level has gone down to maybe 92. And in one of those days, it went down to 40. So I was from category 3. I move on to category 4, and no one wants to go through those things. So the reason why I'm sharing this, it is also maybe can answer Dr. Taufik's questions. I was that person who really focuses everything in dunya. I work really, really hard. Let me tell you this. I work extremely hard because because I came from a non-privileged background. My mom, my dad, none of them can, as I mentioned earlier, they cannot even read properly. So I made myself up to university. I had a scholarship. So I always strive hard, and it's very exhausting. It's so exhausting. And one of the reasons why I became a trainer, it is for me to always believe that you can do all this, you can achieve all this greatness in life, and still balance with spirituality. And when I had that moment, being sick in hospital, I completely detached from the worldly matters. I surrender myself 100% to Allah. And at that moment, Dr. Taufik, I just constantly zikir. Zikir means zikir, right? The zikir. I carry this with my I carry this any place that I go. I grew up to highly dependent on zikir, and I constantly salat even when I was sick. Why am I sharing this? To share with you how surrendering to Allah 100% has strengthened me as a human being. So surviving COVID, coming back to the reality now, and talking to you today, I came with an objective that I will continue, inshallah, to do really well in whatever I embark on, and at the same time having the balance that at the end of the day, it all happens from the man upstairs. I don't know whether it makes sense to you, because I guess I understand where you come from. That the pace is just so fast, but we just have to stop and recognize that nothing happened without His will. So for me, I want to be excellent in dunya and akhirah. So I just want to make sure that in whatever I do, I keep my salat, I keep my zikir all in intact, because I cannot afford to lose this, because these are the only things that I can hold on to before I'm being called upon, you know. So that is something that I'm sharing very personally. Um, it is not something that I can tell you like with the formula, you have to do this to get this, you know. But it's something that I came to understand that you cannot have everything. You always have to have balance, you know. So for me, that is how I find my balance in dunya and akhirat, and really strive to do well in whatever I do.
MashaAllah, I think, wow, the sharing that you talked about, how you were even affected by COVID-19. I'm so sorry to hear that about you and your family, and how you still held on to your faith and rely everything upon Allah. I know this is a no-brainer question, but how important is spirituality in a businessman's life? I'm actually, because some people, what I met for some businessmen, they say, no, you just need to work hard and you have a plan, and you just strive, and you're just going to do well in business. Like, you rely on everything that you have, your own strength and your power, and maybe the connections you make. But how important is actually spirituality in a businessman life? That's my question for you.
Okay, so we're not going to talk about this. The we're not going to talk about SWOT analysis or the annual report. We're not going to talk about all these technical things, right?
No.
No, seriously, I think being in the business for the past, I would say 7 to 8 years now. Alhamdulillah, one thing that is important as a Muslim, to always make sure that your source of income is clean, which means whatever that we get is out from riba, or out from things that will keep us astray,
Sorry,
Um,
sorry. Brother, because in case people don't know what is riba, okay, riba in Arabic means interest, and salat means prayer. Okay, because these are some terminologies we
sure.
Muslims use.
Um,
Yeah. So,
apologize for that. Let me
no
explain.
problem. Yeah.
So for me, one of the things that because during COVID we were heavily affected as well, and obviously as a human being there will be a doubt whether we can proceed or not. But I think one thing that is important, the risk or the money or everything is from Allah, right? And we just have to believe that with whatever we have, we also have to always give back, through zakat or through sedekah. Zakat, as you know, is one of the pillar of Islam, and sedekah is non-obligatory, but something that will always come back to you in whatever way. Like in our case, when we go through all this, uh, for me personally, when I went through this COVID, it has been one of my gift. As a matter of fact, I see it as a gift because it has given me so much of awakening about life. It has given me so much of happiness through zikir. So that is something that you cannot get through money. So the risk is come from rizki, or risk come. Okay, maybe you want to translate that.
Yeah. Basically, it's like
Sustenance, sustenance. The
blessings
sustenance,
and God,
yeah.
sustenance that God gave you. Yeah.
Yeah, so it comes from many forms. It is not just the money, from the monetary standpoint. So as a family man, the time with because both of us are very busy parents. Every little moment that we have with our children is also a sustenance. So I see it that way. So whatever you get, you always share with other people. This is something that it is not even something to compromise or negotiate. It is a must, because sustenance is from Allah, and that is the beauty part of Islam, right? We're not here to hoard money or whatever, because we're gonna go anyway. So whatever we have, that is how, Brother Firdaus, I find balance in business. Like when you go through a lot of difficulties about business plan, competition, whatever terminology you want to bring in on business, I always believe that it's about giving back. It is about doing the right thing to humans, and those things is very, very important and cannot be negotiated. Allah will always repay back in a way that you'll be surprised.
MashaAllah, very well said. I think what else? I see some of the questions here that our panelists have. Let me see. Yeah. Who would like to ask a question? Joanne, do you have a question for Brother Addaem? And then what she dreamt, okay, she's inspired. Okay, good. Alhamdulillah. I think maybe brother Iskandar.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the balance between this world and the religion, it's sometimes people will see it like as a choice, right? You either choose one and you let go of the other. But yeah, I've heard some opinions expressed that it's somehow more like a something that you do at the same time. It's not like when you let go of the world that you go towards religion, or that you when you let go of religion you go towards the world, right? I don't know if there is a kind of a dichotomy between that, and if sometimes perhaps religious people see it as something separate, whereas I think that if we live correctly according to the Islamic way, that actually both can be successful, right? I don't
Absolutely.
know how you see that. Yeah.
Okay. I completely in agreement with you, because I do not see this as a separate. I always see things in tandem. Like if you want to be successful in akhirah, then I see this as a bridge to go to that successful akhirah, right? I mean, if you look at the prophet, I mean, we had a lot of example of prophets who are very rich. Like they contribute a lot through their wealth. So I choose to see that way. And at the end of the day, this is how I believe, because I believe the deen, it's supposed to make you successful in this world, you know and that itself should drive more people to understand this is a progressive religion. This is not just a religion focuses on akhirah, because the way for us to go to akhirah, it depends on how we are here today. I cannot remember where I read this, but if you want to see, they say that if you want to see firdaus or heaven, it is how you are having heaven here. Does that make sense? So it's like, if you want to be successful in the hereafter, I believe you will be successful. You need to be successful here as well, and do
Yeah.
everything it takes to be successful here according to the Sharia, not in expense of the deen or the values that comes with it. For me, as I mentioned, I have seen the world before I became Muslim and the world that I was in the past. I will not trade anything for what I have right now, because it has given me so much that I do not have in the past. Like, for example, peace and the real understanding about sustenance. That is something that you can only know when you truly believe of giving back sincerely. And I have also seen many miracles that happen to me in a way that I never expected. When you give more, you get more. Because I believe in the past I do it deliberately, like a formula. But I'm not sure whether I did it sincerely or I just did it because for the sake of doing it. But today I think everything go in tandem, and I also believe, and I think one of the things that I cannot translate this in English, but I believe when we live this world, we live three things. Everything else will be expired, if I may say that, right? Except your sedekah jariyah. Second, the pious children that you leave behind that can dua for you, and then the knowledge, the beneficial knowledge that you're leaving behind to others as well. And that is the reason why I'm also going to trainings, because I believe whatever I do, if people apply and they practice it and they carry on to the next level of their life as well, or even to the next generation. So I believe this is something that will continue to grow. Sedekah Jariyah works the same way as well. Whether it's RM1, $1, it doesn't matter. You continue to do that, and you continue to prosper in a way that you never see. And leaving behind the children is very important for me as well, because I had the privilege to know Islam after 14 to 1500. So somebody has to leave behind a good legacy, and it all starts from us.
MashaAllah. Yeah,
Beautifully
those
said, man.
beautiful three
Wow.
points. Very well said. Those 3 points. Once again, to reiterate, the first one is charity. The money that you give out to others, even after death, they still bring benefit to you in the hereafter. Also, knowledge that you leave behind, where people use it and benefit them, this also will come back to you as rewards after you die. Children that pray for you, even after you die, their prayers also will bring benefit to you in the hereafter. And do you say one more? One more, right? That's true. I got a lot of rewards. Okay, never mind. Yeah, but I think brother Taufik, Dr. Taufik, have also a question for you here.
Okay, so I hear this a lot, or at least among the Malay Muslim community, which I'm sure you've heard a lot also from your friends in Malaysia. So sometimes they talk about being having syukur or having gratitude. You know, sometimes they say, "Oh syukur lah, enough. Having enough is good enough." You know, no need to work so hard. You know, you can eat, you have a house to live, enough already lah. Why must you work so hard? You know, you have to go out so late. You know, do all these things. So my question is, how do you strive towards excellence, even having all this gratitude and syukur, or how do you answer these people? Right.
MashaAllah.
Very
You-
good question. Actually, this one is also my question.
Dr. Tafi, you tend to ask me difficult questions, but I was trying to answer that as well. Okay.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, so thank you for that. I really think it's a very good questions. I am disagreement to that because I believe whatever we have, it is not for us alone. You know, that is the beauty part of being a Muslim. And as a matter of fact, as you know, I mentioned earlier that I do have siblings that is not from the Islamic. They are not Muslim yet. You know, I choose to say that they are not Muslim yet because I believe one day hidayah can happen to anyone. For me, when I have such a when I'm so blessed with life like this, where I can get more and earn more, it's a way for me to give back to the society because we live here in an interdependent world. We cannot just focus on ourselves, and that is what separates us from many other things, I think. I also believe very strongly on ecological cycle of life. Yeah, it has to be a win-win situation for everyone. And whatever sustenance that we have, if we are not working, striving hard for it, I do not know what is the purpose of it. So what are we here for? You know, are we just going to sleep and sleep and sleep? You know, what are we here for? You know, so I guess with whatever blessed that we have through knowledge, we have the capability from health. We should strive to be the best and be the example to others to follow us. And when you do well and you are able to give back, and that will be another sustenance that you will always get back in a way that you never imagined before. So for me, I do not settle for mediocrity. I think this religion is about being excellent and it's about striving for the best. And that is what I aim to do, and not just for myself. And I mean, the whole vision of our family, my wife and I, is to do so, is to do this. And as a matter of fact, if I may share this, on the 24th of July in Malaysia, we have a seminar for work-life harmony that we are doing, where half of the fund that we are getting, we are giving back to the Malaysians who are going through tough time through COVID. It's only 68 ringgit, guys, you know. So it's like less than, I don't know, 30 Singapore dollars. You know, for any Singaporeans listening today, please join the seminar as well. You can just check out my Instagram. Half of it will go back to the community where we wanted to help the people because they are going through a lot of difficult situation in Malaysia, you know, with a lot of psychological issues, a lot of even I heard stories like people are committing suicide because they cannot carry on life paying bills and things like that. So, Dr. Taufik, I really believe I am here to make a difference. This is my belief, you know, and I believe my children, I will aim to do the same for them as well, so that they know that they're gonna make a better impact than what mommy and daddy has done, you know. And I truly believe these four wonderful children of mine, they're gonna make a lot of impact better than me, you know. So I go with that belief, and I believe Allah will grant that. I mean,
in fact, I really resonate with you over there because, one thing is in the Quran, right? It says about us coming down here on earth as a Khalifa for Allah, a representative of Allah to take care of the earth, to benefit everyone. And as a Muslim, we should be striving to keep benefiting everything, not only mankind, but creatures around us, the earth, the planet. We should show how we can improve everything that we are given here as a test on earth. And inshallah, when we do all this, right, these will come back to us also in the hereafter as rewards. So we as Muslims, we see both, balancing both worlds, in a perfect harmony. That's how beautifully Brother Adam has just described the importance of always striving to do good and doing well in what you do, and striving to achieve more than what you can. And that itself will put us on a better light, as you know, if as Muslim people see, wow, Muslims are actually all really trying to improve people's life, not just thinking about just themselves or their family only, or just contented with simple stuff only, but most importantly not about themselves. When they strive more, it's actually for striving for others.
Yeah.
Mashallah, that's very well said. I think any more questions from our panelists? I'm curious. Joanne, Joanne have a question. Okay, yeah, Joanne, yes.
I just want to ask, like, because we are revert, so we tend to like really appreciate about the Islam. Then how do you educate your kids that like you make sure they really really love Islam and Allah is those things? Because both Muslim and Mu'alaf are different.
Okay. Yeah. That's very important question as well, because one of the things that we believe in iman, right? Things that cannot be seen, right? So my wife and I, we really associate everything to love. Everything is of love. Everything is Allah's love, right? So for example, like a simple thing, like for example during the work from home situation, right? Because I am actually I will work most of the mornings in the morning in the house, and I go to my office in the evening, because normally the girls are having classes, because I just want to make sure that I'm there to support them. So at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, one of my daughters will come and ask for uh so-called, what do you call that, a tea break or whatever, and I know why she looked for me, because there's some sort of a sweet stuff that she can get. But of course I always go for healthy, so we have this mueslis in the house. So I always say, so like for example, when she come look for that, typically I'll be doing my duha, solat sunat duha, one of the non-obligatory prayers. And I said that to her, I'm doing this because I'm being grateful to Allah, because Allah has given daddy so much that daddy can buy food even for you, you know so like whatever you're eating right now, whatever books that you're reading, is all from Allah. And as a matter of fact, I will teach them about names, Asmaul Husna, the names of Allah. Like for example, Ya Alim, Ya Hakim, Ya Rashid is all about intelligence. So I will talk to them like, the way you're able to read is all from Allah. Allah, daddy love you, but Allah love you more. So I associate everything towards love, because I think parenting, they are able to feel our love, but it is important to associate love to Allah first, that everything comes with Allah's only. So my wife and I, we are very particular about this. Everything we do, we go back to Allah. Like even Kaisan, my youngest son, I always say, Allah love you. Even when I carry him, I don't say, oh, call daddy, call papa or daddy, I always say, Allah love you. Because it is important to inject this thoughts to them, because as an NLP trainer, I believe thoughts, whatever we say, it goes to their unconscious mind or subconscious mind. And it's important to drive values that is very good and healthy. And everything everything they do, it comes from love. Because in this world that we are living in today, there's a lot of hatred and there's a lot of negativity. And love starts from our family. And because it's very easy to tell them to do maths really well, or to score 100 for English or whatever, but anyone can do that really well. But love is something that you need to cultivate at the tender age before 7 years old. And as a family, we are very clear about that. So we do this very consciously, about showing them that constantly they need to showcase love.
MashaAllah, I think that's very well said also. And I think, yeah, it's very important, because we are parents, right? I mean, I myself also am a father now, and I think about what am I going to teach my children. And I think one of the most valuable thing you shared today was to always attribute whatever we have to Allah, and so that they will always look for Allah for guidance. Of course, Allah give even your daddy guidance, right? So as the children, when they know that, I should always look for Allah, even when daddy will call home to be with Allah, they still have Allah to run to seek help from. Yeah, I think those are very well said. All right, guys, we have crossed the 15-minute past the an hour mark, and I believe all of us have a lot more things to ask you. But I think for the sake of this session, and also because I think it's quite late, we are going to end it right here. But just to let you know also that now we are already at we are the ninth day of Zulhijjah. Tomorrow is Arafat. I think it's very apt that this month is the Hari Raya Haji, and you're talking about the dream of Hajj, and this aligns so perfectly to what you shared of your dream. And so in 2 days time will be Hari Raya Haji. So I would like to also wish all our dear viewers out here, and also for our panelists, our Muslim panelists here, and all of us, Selamat Hari Raya Haji. In Southeast Asia we said Selamat Hari Raya Haji. But I mean around the world we said Eid Adha. Yeah, so Eid Mubarak. And for anyone who have more questions, don't be afraid to put your questions down in the comment section in the video, and inshallah, brother Addaem will answer them, or I will answer them if I have the answers for you. And most importantly, I pray that all of you will be also kept safe. Now COVID-19 and the variants and all that out there. I pray all of us, will get through COVID-19. COVID-19 will end, and we can once again travel and be with those we love. And inshallah, Allah will keep us safe and protect us always. And so for everyone out there, we thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'll see you next week for the next episode. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much. Okay.
You are good, you are smart, you are confident and beautiful. I am love, I am kind, I am good, I am smart, I am confident and beautiful. You are love, you are kind, you are good, you are smart, you are confident and beautiful. Mata hati yang membahagiakan, mata nafsu yang mengecewakan. Lihatlah kebesaran Allah, maafkan kesilapan orang, maafkan kesilapan orang. Tidurlah sayang. Buka matamu, lihat dirimu, risetkan mindamu, lapangkan dadamu. Kadang hidup ini sukar untuk difahami, tapi yang ku tahu, cintaku hanya untukmu.